Welcome to the NWO Sports Podcast. Here's your host, Logan Bailey.
Welcome to the NWO Sports Podcast, football edition, brought to you by primary sponsor 3Chord. I'm your host, Logan Bailey, and joined today by Keith Brown, AJ Fairchild, and Tony Fairchild. So thanks again, guys, for joining us. And it's safe to say winter is among us.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah. It's all cold. Everybody's coughing and hacking.
Right.
I was coughing and hacking last week. Just didn't hear it much, but everybody else is sniffling and sneezing. And
yeah, I actually took the day off work. I went out hunting today for the first day of firearm, and I froze, safe to say. That wind was a killer. And
was it worth it?
Yeah, I had a crack at a buck at the end of the day. So the last 30 minutes of hunting, right after sunset, that's when it all goes down. So, but my hands were too cold. I didn't have a good shot. So I'll have to go out later this week. But it was a good time. So, guys, it's a big week. State championship. This is our first one of the podcast.
Yeah.
We never had a team make it to the state championship. So that's exciting since we've started doing this. But, we'll kind of start things off. We'll look how we did for last week's picks, and we'll kind of roll from there. So looking at last week's picks, Logan and Matthew finished a perfect 3-0 last week. Keith finished 2-1. Tony, AJ, and Bryce all finished 1-2. So on the year, Matthew still leads the way at 176-43. Myself and Keith are now tied again. So that's back to being a tie. So Keith is no longer solely in second position. We both are at 173-46. Next is Tony with 168-51. After that, AJ is with 165-53, and then last, Bryce is 157-61. So again, a pretty good year from all of us.
So I need to make a 3-pointer this weekend, but I can't.
That's right. You only got one game to go this week, and
can you pick them 3 times?
That's right. We'll see how you guys pick later on in the podcast. But other than that, we have some state semifinal playoff game recaps to get to, and we'll kick it off first with the NWO Sports Game of the Week, and that would be in Division 5. That's Germantown Valley View versus Liberty Center, and we were at this game. Liberty Center ended up winning this one. It was 14-10. Valley View actually led at halftime 3-0. And the second half would have all the action as Liberty Center would score 2 touchdowns while Valley View returned a kickoff for a touchdown. Looking at total offense, Liberty Center had 253 yards, 209 rushing. Valley View had 184 yards, 186 passing. Turnover battle, Liberty Center had 0. Valley View had 2 fumbles. Looking at some top players of note from Liberty Center, our player of the game, offensive and defensive lineman, Landon Bockelman, had a great game, and his stat line went 2 tackles, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery, 1 pass deflection, and I believe they didn't credit him with the forced fumble. I think they credited, we'll get to later, but Garrison.
Yep.
But on one of the clips I had, I think that one was truly Landon, so I'll give him credit for that. But, and that's one main point with Landon is, though the stats don't necessarily jump out on the page, they were all at critical points in the game, and they really made a difference in the outcome. And he also played well on the offensive line. So what we'll do next is I'll put in the clip here of Landon's interview from our player of the game.
Here with Landon Bockelman, offensive lineman and defensive lineman for Liberty Center. Congratulations on the huge win.
Thank you.
What's going through your mind right now?
I'm just ecstatic. This is great. It's such a good feeling. I mean, all the hard work that all of us put in the offseason, it finally paid off, and we can play football in December.
That's awesome. You had a heck of a game. You're an NWO Sports player of the game as well. You had that huge sack down the stretch. How did you make that play?
Linebackers, DBs covered. That quarterback was awesome. We allowed him to not be able to throw the ball right away, and me and Navarro were able to get there. We were able to shut him down. So.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome job by you guys. You guys came back in the second half. You held on, and now you guys are going to the state championship. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And we'll be rooting you on.
Thank you.
Continuing on with top players from Liberty Center, running back linebacker Trenton Cruz finished with 30 carries, 188 rushing yards, good for 6.3 yards a carry. He had 1 rushing touchdown, and on defense he had 5 tackles and a tackle for loss. Just a workhorse on that offense. Linebacker Garrison Cruz, the freshman brother of the Cruz triplets, he got the start due to some injuries, and he did an absolutely terrific job. He finished with 6 tackles, 2 sacks. He had a huge forced fumble and really made a difference and played very well for being a freshman. Looking at linebacker, running back Colton Cruz had 10 carries, 27 rushing yards, 7 tackles, and 2 tackles for loss. Quarterback Landon Amstutz finished 3 of 11, 44 passing yards, and he had 1 rushing touchdown. And wide receiver, defensive back Landon Cruz, all 3 receptions. He had every single one of them. finished with 44 receiving yards, 8 tackles, and 1 pass deflection on defense. So, guys, we were all there at this game. What were your thoughts on the Valley View and Liberty Center game?
I tell you what, probably one of the best games I've watched in a long time, next to the Ohio State-Michigan game this weekend.
Right.
I just tell you what, 3 points scored in the whole first half, and then 21 points scored in the first 4 minutes of the third quarter, and then everything was quiet again. I should say quiet, but just what a battle. And it was a great game. And, just two teams just battling it out. And, there's a lot of things I could talk about, and I probably will as we move through it. But, the couple things I thought Liberty Center needed help with, they kind of cleaned up a little bit in the second half was, linebackers from Valley View was giving them fits. They were just shooting the gaps and blowing stuff up in the backfield. They came out there in the second half, looked like they kind of got that fixed, and Liberty Center just right down the field. Kicked the ball out of bounds, and then I could not believe that they made him re-kick it.
Yeah.
Until he ran it back for a touchdown.
Yeah.
Then you're like, oh man, that's why they had him re-kick it. But Liberty Center just come right back and battled back down there and got stopped short, I think it was, right? And then that's when they forced the fumble on defense. But great game. Just come right down to the wire.
And actually, a talking point I had, Tony, was the offensive and defensive lines from Liberty Center were tested this game. Mm-hmm. Valley View, they outsized them. I would say they were probably easily winning the line of scrimmage battle in the first half. I mean, we talked about the job. There's multiple tackles for loss from defensive tackles, and a lot of those guys on the interior for the defensive line of Valley View were opening up those lanes so the linebackers could make those tackles too. But like you said, the second half was a different story where the offensive linemen really stepped up and they did enough to get things going. So,
yeah, it was started at the start of the game, right before it was underway. We were talking to some of the people on the sidelines, and one thing that we had heard last week was that Waylon Wentz got hurt. It sounds like he had a lower leg injury. Wasn't sure how that was going to play into this game. It sounds like that's where Garrison Cruz came in, kind of subbed in for him. We thought, freshman coming in a playoff game like this.
State semifinal game.
Typically, that's a scary thought to have, but man, that kid came out and performed.
Yeah.
In my opinion, he had one of the biggest plays of the entire game with that forced fumble on like the 1 yard line. He was actually, I think, in the end zone when he got hit.
Right.
But the ball falls on the 1 yard line, and Landon Bachman picks it up. It falls to the right instead of the left. Didn't matter because they ended up getting the touchdown the next play anyways. But that's where that propelled them to that 14-point, 14-10 lead.
Yeah.
And like you guys said, that was pretty much all they wrote from then on. I mean, it was a battle all game. Both teams, their offenses were very powerful. Just neither one found the end zone again. Yeah. Even late in the fourth quarter, man, some of the most exciting football I've watched in a long time.
Yeah, very, very hard-hitting game from start to finish. Again, for the second straight game, Liberty Center was shut out in the first half. And the only points of the game was that field goal right before the half. And again, second half, Liberty Center made the adjustments. And what a game by Trenton Cruz. I mean, that just goes to show you, Coach Moeller, the play don't work once, it don't work twice, it don't work 3 times. He's still going to run it because that's what they do. They're going to run it till they're blue in the face and they're going to be successful, which they were in the second half, especially. But a great job by the Liberty Center front three and the Cruz freshmen. You shut down their quarterback who came in with 2,500 yards and 1,200 yards rushing, Caden Henson, and shut down their running back who was over 1,000 yards, and they have -2 yards rushing for the game, I believe.
Yeah, I believe
so.
Unbelievable stat.
I mean, as Logan said, you see Bachman's numbers and you're like, ho hum, but he dominated basically the whole game. The numbers just don't show it. That front three just caused havoc all game long for Liberty Center.
Yeah, and the one big play there towards the end when Valley View had the ball going for the end zone, and they almost got the sack, and they ended up getting backed out of the holding penalty. Yep. But I tell you what, that was, to me, we were talking about this. I was talking about this at the game. I was okay, they got the penalty, but I was wanting the sack, right? So to keep the clock running, they had one more timeout to burn. You want that timeout off the clock. Yep. You want that off. Yep. That closes down the field for them. Now they got to get to the sidelines. They got to be careful. And I don't know, Valley View called the timeout even after they called the penalty. They backed them up, and they're standing there. They're all conversing. They're all like confused and looking at the play, and the coach ends up calling timeout. And that, to me, that was such a huge call to call that timeout, because now it empties the field. Well, then he gets sacked.
Right.
The next play, they do call the play, and Bachman got there. Those guys got there and got to the sack, and those two that two play sequence right there, in my opinion, was huge at the end of that game.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, and just to give the interior 3 defensive linemen for Liberty Center a shout out, Seth Navarre, Landon Bachman, Xander Zeiter, they really locked things down and held down the fort, because all night, like you said too, I think they finished with -2 rushing yards, and for the most part they shut down Valley View's star quarterback in that Caden Henson, and he was pretty elusive. There was a couple of plays at the end of the game. He was running for his life. He made a couple guys missed, and geez, it made you kind of I don't know, it almost scared, because you thought he was going to make some completions down the field and he was going to score late in the game and end up pulling out a win for Valley View, but nonetheless said that they didn't convert on some of those 4th downs. And but yeah, very athletic, very elusive from that Henson. And honestly, I think some people said that may have been the most kind of impressive quarterback that Liberty's seen probably since DJ Newman.
It's almost like that Valente. Anytime he got his hands on the ball, he had the threat to take it all the way, which we saw in the kickoff.
Yeah.
So, but I think this game, it was cold. It really wasn't windy, but the coldness, I think, had an effect on the game, especially the first half. You saw 3 or 4 drop passes from Liberty Center. Amstoltz really didn't seem to get a firm grip on the ball.
Right.
He struggled passing, but again, Liberty Center's a running team. In the second half, they just ran the ball down their throat, and it was successful. They made the adjustment in the second half.
I don't know what Coach Miller tells those guys at halftime, but he gets that offensive line straightened out. But I tell you what, when you guys popped up the stats talking about Trenton Cruz, if they would have told me how many yards he had and I had to take a guess on how many carries and in the yards per carry, I would have been like, yeah, he may have had 100 yards and probably he's averaging 3 yards a carry.
Sure.
Because it seemed like he was getting blown up a lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you see the stats, you're like, holy crap. I guess, then you start thinking he did break off a couple long ones, 10, 15, 20 yards. So
they're late in the 3rd quarter, coming into the 4th quarter, he was starting to find his rhythm. He was getting those 4-yard gains, 5-yard gains. And I remember making a comment to you that it's funny that the other team was cheering like crazy when he got that 5-yard gains. It's like, guys, 5-yard gains every single play will get you in the end zone. Yeah. But he really started finding that rhythm there towards the late 3rd quarter.
Yeah.
I felt like with Valley View, though, for the most part, I mean, that was a good challenge for Liberty. And we kind of talked about it. I mean, how do these games just keep getting tougher and tougher, because now they just played one of the best 4 teams in the state. Now they're down to the final 2. So, and we'll get into the game later with Perry, but I'm excited. I mean, it's going to be a good game. It's going to be a good battle. Liberty's shown that they're gritty. They can grind out a win and get it. So I'll be curious to see how that goes, but we'll discuss that later on. Let's move on to the next game here. We're looking at Division 7, Marion Local facing off against Patrick Henry. This game, Marion Local ended up winning 42-0. At halftime, Marion Local led 28-0. Total offense, Patrick Henry had 177 yards with 97 passing. Marion Local had 230 yards with 187 rushing. Turnovers, Patrick Henry had 2 interceptions. Marion Local had 0. This actually marks Marion Local's 47th win in a row. I believe that's the current state of Ohio record. Their playoff record now stands at 101-12 all time. So we talked about the gauntlet that Marion Local is.
That's their playoff record?
Yes, that's their playoff record. And they are now, Marion Local will be trying for the 12th team ever to complete a three-peat for a state championship. So we knew that Patrick Henry is going to have their hands full. It's very impressive down the stretch of what Coach Inselman and the whole coaching staff and players have all done, with all the adversity. We've talked about that the last couple weeks on the podcast. But, it's just one of those things. We played Marion Local my senior year. It's just like, it's a meat grinder. You can't get past Marion Local. And, I mean, they're definitely the program in the state of Ohio. You should base your program off the way they run things, schematically, and just the culture in general. But looking at some top players from Patrick Henry, running back Houston Miranda finished with 11 carries, 63 rushing yards. He had 2 receptions for 15 receiving yards. Wide receiver Thomas Smith had 3 receptions for 54 receiving yards. Quarterback Lincoln Krieger was 7 of 22, 97 passing yards. He did have 2 interceptions, but he had 11 carries for 11 rushing yards. So, guys, thoughts on the Marion Local and Patrick Henry game?
One cool thing that they had at the game we were at Liberty Center, they had all the scores popping up like constantly. It was just constantly rotating on the scoreboard. So I was keeping track of that pretty close. And it seemed almost like it got off to a little bit of a slow start because it was 0-0 for a while. Then it was 0-7 for a little while. And then all of a sudden it was like 21-0, then 42-0. It's like, wow, they really blew that open. But for Patrick Henry to even be able to hold out at the start is kind of impressive against a Marion local team because, you read off the winning stats there. They're just a phenomenal program. And you see that come up on your schedule and you're like, okay, well, here goes.
Yeah. A couple of things that I found doing a little bit of research for the game. 5 games, Marion locals allowed 7 points. They have 4 shutouts in the playoffs.
Wow. Wow.
But Patrick Henry, they probably knew they needed to play a perfect game. Even then, playing a perfect game against Marion local, you still had to play another perfect game on top of your perfect game.
Against Marion local, you need to play a perfect game and then have some luck on your side too.
So, I guess more than look at the game itself, it was probably disappointing for your seniors and the disappointment looking at the scoreboard. This is our last game and our season's over. But it's like, just take a step back and just look at the whole season and what you guys went through from losing your leader, Nash Meyer, all-state quarterback. Oh, my gosh, our season's over. No, you got to switch your receiver in who plays quarterback. A little rough adjustment. Start against Liberty Center. Obviously, that didn't go well, which we see Liberty Center blows up everybody, so that he just watched that one. But Lincoln Krieger played a heck of a last – what, he come in week 6?
Yep.
So, 10 games?
Yeah.
9?
10 games.
Almost a full season as a quarterback.
Heck of a season by him. Houston Miranda. I mean, what more can you say about that kid? Thomas Smith. Landon Johnson, you don't hear too much about him, unfortunately, but still a heck of a season by them. But once you take a step back and you look, which we said many times, like this is probably Coach I's best coaching performance, even including the state championship. There's really nothing else that they could accomplish as a team than what they did this season right here.
Yeah, and I just want to add a couple things. So I actually got sent in the cumulative stats for Patrick Henry, what the end of the year totals were. So this is Matt Nash Meyer's stats before we went out. 89 of 122, 1,371 passing yards with 11 passing touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and he had 2 rushing touchdowns for 34 yards. Lincoln Krieger, when he came in, 66 of 129, 1,097 yards, 12 passing touchdowns. He had 9 interceptions, but he ran the ball 88 times, 498 yards, 9 rushing touchdowns, good for 5.7 yards a carry. That's not too shabby.
No, not at all.
Considering a guy whose primary position was wide receiver and coming in late and kind of thrown into the fire, those are some pretty respectable stats, especially, considering those are in playoff games as well, too. So
I was just going to say the same thing. And remember, the three or four of those were in the playoffs.
Right.
So, you're not playing, just the rinky-dink schools. Patrick Henry's got to hold her head high. Keith, you kind of nailed it all. But when you look back at the season and everything that went wrong, and you make it all the way to the state semifinals, with backups. For the most part, in some positions, and no disrespect to the guys that are backups, because obviously, as Logan just stated, they're studs as well. But you just got to look back and. Logan, I think you said it Friday night. You're talking about your season. You're looking great. You did a great thing, and then you look up and your next opponent's Marion local. And everybody knows about Marion local, right? Their stats, their winning records, their all this stuff. And you look up and that's your next opponent. You're kind of like, you don't say your season's over. You're going out there thinking you could win,
right?
And you just got to perform. And like you said, you turn the ball over, whatever. You're going to. But like you said, you got to play perfect, and then you need some luck as well against those guys. And it's unfortunate, that Patrick Henry ended up in that situation. But somebody's got to play. You'd have to play him eventually, right? Even if you didn't play them until the championship game, you're going to play him eventually, right? Somebody like that. So, congrats to Patrick Henry on a great season. Don't hold your heads. Just walk around with your heads held high, man. That was a great season, great run, and go back next year and do it again.
Yeah, and I just want to highlight a couple other kids too. Since I have these stats, Houston Miranda, kid, we cannot forget to mention this kid. You know, out of all the adversity, he's always been the constant on that offense. He finished with 253 carries, 1,708 rushing yards with 25 rushing touchdowns, good for 6.8 yards a carry. He also had 3 receiving touchdowns for 111 yards on 10 receptions. So another great player. And on the defensive side, I'm trying to see, he's third on the team with tackles, 78 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 1 sack. So wanted to throw his name out there. Definitely one of the staples of that Patrick Henry team. You got other guys like Landon Johnson. Things down the stretch, he may not have got as many targets, but people forget, he was an all-state wide receiver last year, and he was Nash Meyer's #1 hookup. Then things happen, quarterback changes, and then Thomas Smith steps up, who did a very nice job. You look at those two, Landon Johnson finished 59 receptions, 927 receiving yards with 9 receiving touchdowns. He also ran the ball quite a bit as well, too. 23 carries, 156 rushing yards with 3 rushing touchdowns. And then like the other guy I mentioned, Thomas Smith, 42 receptions, 786 receiving yards, 8 receiving touchdowns, and he really stepped up down the stretch using that big 6'3" frame. They just threw the ball up to him in the end zone, too. So impressive out of those guys. And then the last guy I really wanted to kind of mention was the hero on the defensive side of the ball. And I know it's hard to recognize some of the defensive guys because we don't always get stats for defense. All the offensive guys get all the glory. That's how it always is. But Grant Smith, the man finished, he's just a sophomore, 102 tackles, 12 tackles for loss, 23 sacks on the year.
Jeez.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Was definitely a menace on that defense. So wanted to
Sophomore.
Yes.
Wow.
He's got a very bright future ahead of him. And there's plenty of other excellent athletes on that team, but just wanted to highlight a couple of those kids because they're very deserving of some recognition.
Dude, what's the state sack record for a season? Good Lord, 23?
I don't know if there's actually a state stat. I've looked it up before, and I for some reason I couldn't find any stats for sacks.
Man.
I feel like a lot of times I feel like stats for defense get kind of, I don't know if they're
kind of inflated almost.
Inflated,
sometimes.
yeah, because especially, I think we were talking about that too, with some of these teams that submit stats, some of them are maybe, I don't know how they count tackles. I think we talked about this in the past weeks ago.
We talked about it on our drive actually to the game.
And I don't know how accurate they are, so maybe that's why they don't keep them, but offensive stats are always in the record books and so on and so forth.
Right.
But other than that, excellent year. Congratulations to Patrick Henry. You have to hold your heads high, especially how that season went out. So excellent job, players, coaches, and the community for that. The last game here, and we'll just cover it briefly. I didn't have any stats on this. I could not find anything. I said it's unbelievable. You think you'd find more stats for the semifinal game, but that's Division 6 Versailles and Columbus Grove. Versailles ended up winning 30-13, and at halftime, Versailles led 23-7. Who wants to kind of talk about Columbus Grove here?
I got a couple numbers, Logan, I can throw out there.
Sure.
Tigers had 323 total yards, 61 plays. They only threw 5 passes for the entire game. Wow. So they controlled the ball most of the game. Columbus Grove actually jumped out to a 7-0 lead. Trenton Barraza, 4th down and 3 touchdown run. That was after an interception. Columbus Grove had 187 total yards. They had 41 snaps. And Barraza himself had 76 yards on the ground. So, but three of 4 years in the state Final Four. I mean, for Coach Schaefer and the Bulldogs, it's, again, once you take a step back and look at your season as a whole, I mean, other than the state championship, what more is a group, is a senior class? 3 of 4 years, you go to you're in the Final Four, the chance to play for an eventual state title.
Regional champs, too. Very impressive.
This is, again, you see your season over, you look at the scoreboard, it sucks. You got a long bus ride trip back home. But, once you detach yourself, once the practices are over and everything, you just take a step back, sit in your bedroom one night, and you're just like, we had a heck of a season. I mean, they really did. You got Landon Best coming back. I think he's just a sophomore this year. Trenton Barraza is just a junior, so you got your quarterback and running back coming back next year. Got one of the better coaches in the area coaching you.
It was nice to see what they could do defensively, too. I know Coach Schaefer said in the past he wasn't really sure kind of what they were going to get because they lost those 3 studs, pretty much all Ohio kids at linebackers, right. And they had kids step up. and that defense was pretty stout throughout the year as well. So overall, again, similar kind of story to Patrick Henry. I mean, I don't know if they had as much for adversity as they did, but there's some questions going into the season, and all those kids and that senior leadership really stepped up and they fulfilled their roles. And again, a very successful senior class. I mean, you have 3 regional finals and state semifinal berths on your resume. That's impressive. Not many kids can say that they've done that.
12 member senior class.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, we got to watch them play. I'm glad we went over to Findlay and watched them play. A great group of kids, and they were all just kind of running by and telling how much they liked the podcast, which was really awesome. Yeah. And but you know what? They're going to be successful. I mean, the success breeds success, I think. And you got a good coach, you got a good program, you're winning, you're going to. To me, I would hope that would light the fire with some of those younger kids to not break that tradition. I understand. We talked about this before, that kind of ebbs and flows with the talent you have, but hopefully it lights the fire with some kids that want to play, and maybe get that team to that next step.
Yeah. Versailles is one of the teams that beat Kirkland, and where's Kirkland at this year?
Finals.
Yes.
Yep. State championship.
Finals.
They broke their 55-game winning streak. Versailles did. So. Columbus Grove, I mean, it's a very successful season for Coach Schaefer. Like you said, as all you guys pointed out, it was a pleasure to go down and watch those guys a couple of weeks ago. All those kids, oh my gosh, they're so awesome. On the field, off the field, telling us, hey, we love you guys. No, we're actually here to watch you guys.
Yeah.
Honestly, we just talk about stats and we watch your clips. But you guys are the real stars out there. I mean. Right.
So, yeah, I think, Columbus Grove, they have a good thing going on. And similar to what you said, Tony, success breeds success. And now these kids, they're going to be a year older. The kids that are still there, they have to step up. And it's almost the fact that they don't want to be the program, or they don't want to be the class or the team that lets them down. They want to continue that tradition of making it back to the regional finals, winning, and giving yourself a chance to possibly go to a state championship game. So,
which we talked about when Coach Mueller was here. Like, if you're going this far into the playoffs for as opposed to a team that's just played, say, 10 regular season games, these teams probably get at this point an additional. I would just going to guess if you practice 4 times a week, you get 20 extra practices. So all those underclassmen, all this experience that they got postseason, it just kind of bleeds into next year. It's, hey, talk about the Cruz kid taking a step back to Liberty Center. He's technically a freshman, but he's not a freshman anymore at this point in the season. He's already into his sophomore class.
Yep.
So,
and we talked about that even too with programs, not only practices but games.
Yep.
You figure these teams that made it to the state semifinal, that's 5 additional games. Yep. That's half a regular season. Yep. So you're really playing 1.5 seasons when you make it that far in the playoffs. So again, you're getting the kids experience and practice, but not only that, you're getting kids, in Liberty Center's scenario, freshmen getting some playing time and starting late in the playoffs. That is so valuable. I don't think people realize, and going back to, you look at Marion Local.
Yep.
Marion Local, I believe, what's their winning streak? 40 something?
7 games. 47.
So you figure they play 6 games, and let's just say over the last 4 years, so that's 24 additional games that they've played just in postseason play if you're in that senior class.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, they're going for a three-peat. I mean, they're going for a three-peat this year, so.
That's 24 additional games. That's almost 2.5 additional seasons. You get 10 games per season. It's phenomenal to think of that stat.
Playing an NFL schedule.
Yes, I know it. And I said too, with some of these state games for the high school, you're playing more games than some college teams too. I said these are long, daunting seasons, and AJ brought it up before too, and that's why a lot of the times it's a game of attrition. And you got to stay healthy deep in the playoffs. So, I mean, these teams are going to play more teams than Ohio State and Michigan, most likely. So, it's just unbelievable. So, but other than that will conclude our game recaps. We'll take a break to hear from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. 3Chord is a family-owned and operated business who offers the highest quality embroidery, screen printing, sign and promotional items to customers in Northwest Ohio at competitive prices. Locations in Archbold, Napoleon, and Bowling Green. Check them out at 3chord.com. That's THREECORD.com. Optimal Performance Fitness is your go-to gym in Northwest Ohio, providing group fitness classes, personal training, and sports performance sessions for area athletes. located in Napoleon, Ohio. Give them a call today at 419-438-7265. BSN Sports is your go-to business for purchasing uniforms, equipment, spiritwear, and anything else your athletic program needs, giving you more time to impact lives on the field. With over 1,200 sales professionals who live, work, and serve in your community, we are always just a short drive or phone call away. Be sure to give your local sales rep and Jim Garris a call for any of your athletic supply needs. For any of your auto body or collision needs, be sure to check out Bat & Stevens Body Shop, voted the #1 body shop in Northwest Ohio by Crescent News readers. Give them a call today at 419-497-3111 to schedule your free estimate. Check out Tenora Rams Live. Live events broadcast on YouTube and post-game results, articles, schedules, and more can all be found on tenorarams.com. Feel free to look up their Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram pages as well. Fairchild Family Chiropractic aims to help families to get better together in the least invasive way possible. Dr. Fairchild focuses on the neck using the Blair technique and Palmer package, adjusting to correct spinal misalignments. Located in Defiance, Ohio, call Dr. Fairchild today at 419-576-5070 to schedule an appointment. Crystal Vasquez of Amerimaid Realty is a top real estate agent in Northwest Ohio. Crystal's compassion and enthusiasm allow her to find that special property or house just for you. Located in Bryan, Ohio, give her a call today at 419-799-1243. Jimenez Basketball Academy strives to create an atmosphere to cultivate basketball fundamentals in Northwest Ohio youth athletes, offering one-on-one sessions, group sessions, speed and agility training, and much more. Located in Pettisville, Ohio, call Coach Jesse today at 419-551-8105. The Drop Zone Pizzeria is the #1 voted pizza restaurant in the region. Check them out for pizza, wings, subs, and more. Located in Ayersville and Stryker, or ask them about their traveling food trailer. Northwest Ohio Basketball hosts premier basketball tournaments for boys in grades 3 to 8 in the area. Upcoming tournaments are right around the corner. Give them a call today at 419-283-5296 or check out their website at nwoball.com. The Thunderdome is your local indoor softball and baseball facility offering private lessons, turf infield, batting cages, and pitching machine rentals, even offering a golf simulator. Located in Archbold, Ohio. Give them a call today at 419-906-3643. Nicely Rentals and Storage is your go-to venue for graduation parties, birthdays, weddings, and more. Also offering vehicle storage, table and chair rentals, and U-Haul equipment. Located in Ayersville, Ohio. Give them a call today at 419-439-6177. Trueland Equipment and Salesman Lauren Brown are your go-to for John Deere equipment in Archbold, Ohio. Mowers, compact tractors, skid loaders, and more. Your sales expert on commercial turf and CCE sales. Give Lauren a call today at 419-445-1565. We're back on the NWO Sports Podcast. We're going to go ahead and break down our predictions and what the big game of the state championship in Division 5 entails. And we're looking at Perry 15-0 facing off against Liberty Center 15-0. Just looking at some things from face value, Liberty Center is favored in this one, according to Drew Pastor, given a 52% chance to win and by 1 point. Coming into this game, we've kind of looked at both teams, and I really think that this game is going to be probably the best state game down there. Two evenly matched teams, two undefeated teams. Looking at Perry is northeast of Cleveland, for those of you who don't know. And this is Perry's first state title appearance. Their playoff record is 23-19. Some of their top players, quarterback Walter Moses, who's a junior. Last year as a sophomore, he was third team All-Ohio. He's got offers from Akron and UConn. Running back Jaden Studio, who's a senior, he has an offer from Kent. A couple talented athletes that carry, some MAC offers, some smaller Division I school offers. They've played the 18th toughest schedule in all of Division 5, according to Drew Pastor. And you look at Perry's schedule, though, you break it down. They play up in schedules, which means, they're playing bigger schools, multiple teams in Division 3 and Division 4. They only played one Division 5 team and only one Division 6 team, and that would be the powerhouse Kirkland, which they beat 24-6 in week 3 of the regular season. And everyone knows how good Kirkland is. And we talked about Marion Local holding their win streak of 47. Kirkland was one of those teams as well that had a long win streak too. So, from face value, Perry's resume looks very, very good. On the flip side, Liberty Center, a couple stats with them. They won state in 1997, state runner-up in 93 and 98. Their playoff record is 43-21, and according to Drew Pastor, they played the 17th toughest schedule in all of Division 5, so that's one spot ahead of Perry itself. So, guys, what are your kind of thoughts on this game here?
I mean, just reading off those stats, this has got to be one of the most evenly matched games in football, in high school football of all divisions. I mean, 17th and 18th toughest schedules, both undefeated. The prediction for Drew Pasture is 1 point. That's basically nothing, especially in football. Anything can happen there. I'm excited to see this game. I really hope Liberty Center pulls it out. But it's going to be a hard-fought battle from start to finish.
Yeah, the Division 5 is, by the way, is going to be the only division that has an undefeated state champion. Both teams are coming in at 15-0. It's the only division that's going to have a undefeated state champion, or could. I mean, the other teams could, but this one's guaranteed to have an undefeated state champion. But when you look at it, both teams come in. Perry's averaging 37.2 points per game, allowing just 6.2, and Liberty Center's averaging 44.2, giving up 7.1. So. Like you said,
every stat you look at is like even, like perfectly even.
Drew Pastures has them, by a point. The website that I'm looking at, this guy's got Perry predicted. Perry's never won a state championship. Liberty Center's won one. So, you look at Perry's resume though. They're definitely the real deal. Like you said, they're playing all Division 3 teams, 4 teams.
And, obviously beating them.
Yeah. And then you look at the playoffs, the number of games they've won in the playoffs here, and haven't given up a whole lot of points coming in. So, pretty impressive.
I think they have 2 shutouts. Yeah, 2 shutouts. They're, 56-0, 47, or 44-7, 34-7, sorry, 42-14, 32-0. They're winning the games, handedly. So, it's going to be a tough fought battle.
That should be a good game. I mean, as Tony said, the matchup of 15-0s. Somebody's going to leave there with the win. Somebody's going to leave there with the loss. And this is one of those things, like, you're used to playing on Friday night all season long. 7 o'clock is your kickoff. Are the teams going to stay? Like, this is, as a coach, one of those things that probably keeps you up at night and drives you nuts. It's a 3 o'clock kickoff on a Saturday afternoon now. Yeah. So are they staying there overnight? Are they taking the bus trip in the morning on Saturday? Like, your routine as opposed to Friday now on a Saturday. I mean, obviously it goes for both sides, but now your routine that you've been in for most of all season is now just thrown up in the air because now everything's pretty much out of whack.
Yeah, now you're playing a college schedule, right? You're playing Saturday afternoon.
Right.
Not under the lights.
I mean, obviously you wish both teams were at full strength. Liberty Center's missing somebody. Then last I knew, like their running back didn't play last week. Second half, I believe he was injured, Studio. So hopefully he's back and can go this week. But it's just one of those little things is like the coach brain just is, man, I hope things are just perfect. But then again, it's.
And I guess the thing is too that it's both teams have to deal with it.
Right, they both have to adapt. So
we'll see who can make the biggest adjustment. Yep. And I'm just kind of looking at the playoffs for Perry. So it looks like they've kind of glided through the playoffs for the most part. Round 1, they won 56-0, which obviously we know what happens in round 1 against Crestwood. Round 2, they win 34-7 against Sandy Valley. Round 3, they win 42-14 against Garfield. A 12-1 team, mind you. And then regional final, they beat South Range. And South Range was in, I believe they made it to the state championship game last year.
They may have won it last year, I think.
Yeah, I don't remember if it was South Range or Ironton, one of the two. They won it last year, but they beat them 32-0. Last week, they ended up Perry beat Harvest Prep, a 12-2 team, that 22-8. On the flip side, Liberty, they handled the teams early on. So they beat 56-14 Elmwood first round. Second round, they beat Huron 41-7. Third round, Oak Harbor, they beat 45-14. And then you get to the regional final with Coldwater. They dealt with some adversity there, slow starts. They kind of shot themselves in the foot. They win that one a tight 17-7. And then they were challenged against Valley View last game and won 14-10. We're actually down 3-0 at half. So I don't know. I think, and I tell you what, I think it benefits the team if you played some tight games here late, because I can tell you for sure this championship game is going to be tight. And it's a different type of football. It's a different feel when you're grinding out those games that are tough against quality opponents. And we've seen it throughout multiple football games. When you cruise through a bunch of wins and then you get into it's go time moments. Some of these teams kind of choke too. So I really think that's going to pay dividends for Liberty Center here down the stretch. So that was just kind of something else I was picking out there from Drew Pastor's website as well.
Now, I guess if you're Liberty Center and you're trailing at the half, you've been there already twice in the last 2 straight weeks. So there's no reason to panic.
Yeah, that's the thing is not only do the players kind of have a feel for what it's going to be like, but the coaching staff also, they know what their game plan is going to look like if they do get down at halftime or, early in the game. They know what they've got to do to make some adjustments. Make some adjustments at halftime, get some fire lit under some of these players. They know what they got to do at halftime. Perry may or may not. They haven't had that kick yet from being down at halftime.
It's going to be interesting to see what Liberty Center does. We always talk about Liberty Center playing Liberty Center football, and believe it or not, they've been able to pound the rock against really good teams. And Oak Harbor, Coldwater, Valley View, it's, you look back and you're like, they're going to have to throw the ball. And I really thought maybe they'd have to throw the ball against Valley View, which they may have. But, again, Amstutz didn't have a great arm. He was having trouble holding the ball, whatever. Wasn't throwing the ball very well. And Liberty Center just canned it. We're going to stick to our bread and butter, and found a way to make it happen. And those guys up front, Bachman, Navarre, and I can look at them and name the rest of the guys, but those guys are just pounding the rock. And, Keith and I talked a little bit about, Sonora took on Highland last year, that big running back, 2,000-yard rusher. And so stats don't mean anything to me when you get to this point. It's whether or not you can get the job done.
You mentioned with throwing the ball in Amstutz. I think he is going to be a key to this game. I think they will have to throw the ball some, and you're going to have to complete more than 3 out of 11 passes, especially against a quality opponent like Perry. And we saw that Amstutz is capable of that. We saw it against Oak Harbor. Very quality game from them, especially when you got receivers like Landon Cruz out there. You got a bunch of other talented receivers as well. And I think you get to this point, you've got to be a little bit more multiple with your offense, because they're going to be good. They're going to stop the run, and you're going to have certain scenarios when you're backed up 3rd and long, and you're going to have to throw the ball. You're going to have to convert on big 3rd down conversions. And I think a lot of this game is going to depend on Landon Amstutz. So
very well could. And I just think offensively, we saw it the last few games with being at Liberty Center, watching them in Oak Harbor, watched them again this past week. They're struggling, in my opinion. They're struggling a little bit taking care of the line of scrimmage. A lot of those guys I watched Bachman several times. He blows through the line, kind of jams the guy at the line of scrimmage, and they're getting next level, but kind of missing the first guy. They're not getting good contact on the first guy, and they're getting second level. And I don't know if that's a pass-off block or how they're doing that. But that was one thing that I saw that they were really struggling with this past week in the first half was taking care of that first level. They were, you see the guys downfield and they're putting a block on the safety or the linebacker, but the first level guy was the one making the tackle a lot. And, I think that's going to be a big issue. The linebackers shooting through the gaps, they were reading. Obviously, they saw something in game film when the guard, and those guys were just going, balls to the wall, getting into those gaps and making some tackles at the line of scrimmage or in the backfield, or at least making contact, not always making tackles, because those guys are running the ball well. But that's a couple things I see Liberty Center is going to have to take care of, is that line of scrimmage, maybe spend a little more time first level. And like AJ said, get those 3-4 yards. Just keep playing Liberty Center football then.
And I'm sure Liberty Center will definitely correct that. And Coach Miller and all the whole coaching staff.
Yep.
But for sure Perry's going to probably try to get their hands on that game film, and they're going to do what Valley View did last game, because out of all the teams this year, Valley View has probably done the most and had the most success with stopping that rushing attack and winning the battle up front in the trenches.
The weather shouldn't really be a problem. Just looking at the forecast, supposed to be mostly sunny and mid to upper 40s.
I had that pulled up here as well. I knew it was supposed to be raining this weekend, but it's moved more to Thursday, Friday. So Saturday, as far as being able to throw the ball, it's gonna be a little bit warmer than it was this past week. So hopefully he's able to get a good grip on the ball and not. It definitely looked like he was almost like shot putting it a few times because he couldn't grip the ball.
Yeah.
And it came into play with the kick too, because that ball does not come off the foot the same when you're kicking a cold football like that.
And who knows? The game may come down to a field goal and an extra point. I felt like the theme last year was more special teams. I know special teams plays a big component, but I feel like last season we saw a lot of big plays. But I mean, it's that third aspect of the game that a lot of people forget. Flipping the field on punts and so on and so forth. So that's going to be crucial for Liberty Center to win that part as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't think Coach Mueller has any issues trotting Ian Rosebrook out there for a 30-yard field goal, 35.
Sure.
At any point in time during the game. Just, hey, go out there, kid, and put her through like you have a million times.
Yeah, that's the thing with the last week's game against Valley View. The defense didn't give up a touchdown. That came on special teams.
That's true.
They only gave up 3 points. So
True statement.
Special teams could be very big in this game.
And one last point too, and this is kind of an off-topic point, but Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium in Canton, pretty gorgeous field. It's got NFL locker rooms. The kids are going to love it. They're real big. Everything's fairly new. They've got a cool locker room speaker hookup, which I'll be curious if they let the kids hook up to them. Reason I know this is when I played at Findlay, we played there more than twice, a handful of times, because we played Walsh and Malone when Malone had a program, and Walsh used to play there too before they had a stadium. So we got to go play at that facility. It's an NFL type facility. You got an NFL press box. It's the biggest stadium any of these kids are ever going to play into. But one thing too, if anyone's traveling down, check out the Hall of Fame Museum. But the last year I played at Findlay, we got an opportunity to go there a little bit early and check things out. Absolutely incredible. The history of the NFL, football in general. We probably spent 3 hours there. You could spend the whole day if you really wanted to. There's all kinds of cool. Yeah, it's
a funny story about that.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, a funny story about the Hall of Fame Museum. Back when I was in high school, I was going for tryouts for some baseball team. Was it the USA?
Something like that.
Something like that. We thought the tryout started at 6 a.m.
7:30.
7:30 a.m. It didn't start until 7:30 p.m. So we had 12 hours to do whatever we wanted in Canton.
Got up early in the morning, drove all the way to Canton. 80's sleeping in the truck, get all the way over there. And I'm like, there's nobody here. I got to walk around.
Like a practice going on.
There's like, but there's nobody here. What's going on? And they're like, those tryouts don't start till 7:30. I'm like, well, yeah, I know, but I figure somebody, no, tonight. I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. So it's, kind of tooled around there for a little bit. Like, what are we going to do all day? Are we going to stick around? And I looked at AJ. I'm like, dude, you want to go to the Hall of Fame Museum? He's like, yeah. So we went and we spent a long time there just tooling around and looking at stuff.
Yeah, when you have 12 hours to kill, you can spend a lot of time in a museum.
That's awesome.
And it's really cool. They have like holograms of like Vince Lombardi that come up, and they have these interactive kind of things you sit in, and it goes through the history of the game of football in the NFL, and it's pretty interesting.
That's when I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. That's when I found out that the Detroit Lions originally started in my grandparents' hometown of Portsmouth, Ohio.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know that. They talked about that. There was like a whole thing about they started in Portsmouth and they moved to Detroit, and I was like, wow, they had a team. They were actually called the Spartans or something at the beginning. So
it's pretty interesting, and they keep on top of new records, because the last time when I went, I think Justin Tucker, he broke some kind of record. I don't know if it was for the longest field goal or it was just a few years ago. And literally that was a week before we were there. They already had his cleats and his jersey and everything was in a case already displayed for the Hall of Fame Museum.
Kidding.
It was pretty incredible.
Probably took it off of him when he left the game.
That's what I mean.
It's like, oh, Tom Brady's jersey came up, missed it. Oh, it's in the Hall of Fame. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, definitely check out the Hall of Fame Stadium. It's very unique, and it's something that everyone could enjoy. Even my wife, who doesn't really care for football, she would probably enjoy that. So, but guys, we've talked long enough. Let's get down to our picks. So after considering everything, Perry's a legit team, but on the other side, Liberty Center's a legit team. I think Liberty Center, they've had the gritty wins here as of late. They've got all the pieces. I've been saying it all year long. I'm going Liberty Center. I've said it from the very beginning. I've never seen a team around this area as deep as Liberty Center, as physical as Liberty Center, as well coached as Liberty Center. They've got everything there. They've made it this far. Why stop now? They got to finish the year with a win and finish 16-0. So I'm going Liberty Center Tigers.
I'm like you, Logan, taking the Tigers. It's almost like they're a team of destiny. Like we said 1,000,001 times. If you would have told us a year later, the Liberty Center would be playing for a state championship after all the losses they had last year. Come on, have another one, guy. There's no way that this team would be playing for a state championship. And fast forward a year later, here we are. They're undefeated, 15-0, playing for a title. It just seems like our team of destiny.
Yeah, I'm right there. I've been a big fan of Liberty Center for pretty much the whole year, even with the Sonora game, seeing how they bounced back after that game week 1. I've been a big fan of them, so I'm rooting for them to pull it all off.
Yeah, I just, Coach Mueller was talking the other day after the game and said there's nothing better. He lied to the kids that he said nothing better than practicing on Thanksgiving. And he said, I lied, but there's nothing better than playing football in December. So, you know what? We'll hope the best for those guys. And I think they've got all the pieces and puzzles, the puzzle pieces there. They've got them put together. They just need to put that final stamp in and bring home that championship. And I think they've got it. I'm going with Liberty Center.
And Bryce had Liberty Center. And Matthew's playing the villain. Matthew picked Perry, so all of us picked Liberty Center except for Matthew. So we'll see what kind of slack that Matthew
must not be
gets.
going to Liberty Center.
That's right. You won't see Matthew around any Liberty Center games for some time. So
hey, somebody's got to give him some locker
Like
room
one of those
talk,
that's right.
wanted posters all over Liberty Center with Matthew's head on it.
Exactly. So, but no, it should be a good game. Honestly, it'll probably be one of the better ones there, and probably one of the better games to come. Who knows? I mean, these are two evenly matched teams, and I'm excited. I don't know is anyone heading down there from ours?
Yeah. Yep.
AJ and Tony. I know Keith, you said possibly
Maybe.
too.
We'll see.
Me, I was so bummed. I guess I'll throw this out there. So fortunately, I bought Big Ten championship tickets a couple months ago, and I told these guys, I said, dang it, because I'm a Michigan fan and Michigan won, so I'll be going to Indianapolis, but these guys are going to be going, representing NWO Sports, having a good time, watching the game on the field. So I wish I could be there. I wish I could be in two places at once. And part of me was almost kind of hoping Ohio State would
This was
win.
stirring in Logan's head.
I
He's
know.
like, Friday night after the game, he's calculating this in his head. Can I make it from Liberty Center, from Canton all the way to Indy? What's the time frame?
Game's at 8 o'clock. I can make no. You're not going to make it from Canton to Indianapolis.
I did in fact contemplate it, but
Yes,
with a 3 p.m. start, there's no way possibly I could make it from Canton to Indianapolis in that time, realist, unless I got some kind of jet to fly me there. That ain't gonna happen.
AJ and Tony get some good videos when Liberty State brings back the hardware.
Absolutely. We'll be celebrating, baby.
Yep. Well, that'll be awesome. So other than that, guys, closing thoughts, the last podcast of the year, other than we'll do one a couple weeks from now. We'll release our all Northwest Ohio sports teams, all the end of the year awards, offensive, defensive player of the year, Iron Man of the year award, which could be pretty interesting as well, coach of the year. We'll come back and do that down the road a little bit, a couple weeks. But closing thoughts, guys.
For me, it's been a hell of a year. It's been fun, and I'm glad we're still sitting here talking. I'm glad there's still somebody here, week 16. So that's about all I can say.
Yeah, and on that point, we had kind of discussed whether we were actually going to do one this week. We weren't really sure, depending on how many teams won, what happened. But as we were walking out of that stadium Friday night, just about every Liberty Center fan we passed was like, "Are you doing another one? Are you doing another one? You better do another one. You better do another one." We're like, "We'll do another one. Don't worry."
Absolutely.
So that was pretty funny. We walked off, and seriously though, like we probably had six people ask us, "Are you guys doing a podcast this week? Are you doing?" I said, probably. I don't know. I had to talk to the guys, and you guys were all down for doing one final one for the state championship.
Yep.
So I appreciate you guys for that.
Yeah.
Yep. For me, again, this last 5 weeks, Logan reaches out and does all the legwork for us, but we get to do things that the normal fan doesn't get to do, which is fortunate for us. Like that, the last couple meetings, we saw Coach Schaefer out there, and then Coach Moeller Friday night. You get to be up close to the huddle and hear what he has to relate to the team, and those are things that are fantastic to hear. Just you're inside the team itself at times, and it's great to just those moments that we'll never forget.
And I appreciate all the teams as well. Every single game that we've gone to this playoff, the teams have taken us almost under their wing and have accepted us as almost one of their own. I know we get excited about the games, and I'm sure there's times Tony wants to strap on and the helmet.
Game.
He wants to strap on the helmet and play for the whatever team we're watching.
Be in, Coach.
Excited. Yeah. And
I thought he was going to get out there and help Coach Moeller a couple times Friday.
I was looking down. I was actually on the field there for one. I was trying to see what was going on down the sideline there, and I got out there. I'm like, well, I better get back. I get myself in trouble.
But yeah, I appreciate that. And like going back to Columbus Grove, geez, we don't even step out onto the field, and Coach Schaefer and everyone's greeting us, and we got to talk to him pregame, which is awesome. Liberty Center, before and after the game, we're talking to the coaches, and they're appreciative of what we do, and it's just awesome. And
when we can confirm that Coach Moeller did smile.
He did smile.
Yeah.
Well, it's like what you said, Keith. We're there to watch them.
Yeah,
we're there to watch what they perform, and it's cool for them to turn around and be like, hey, sweet, love your guys' podcast. Like, feels good. But at the bottom of the line, we're only here because you guys are.
Yeah, absolutely.
So keep pushing.
Yep. And really, these last 5 weeks, I say 5 because week 1 of playoffs we covered Tenora during the regular season, as everyone knows, but they've really been a blast. All the trips that we've taken, all the people we've met along the way. Just unlike anything else. And, like Keith said, like that's not what normal fans and normal people get to experience. We actually were, involved with the team, and, especially doing some of the post-game interviews are really cool. Got to kind of meet and know the players and coaches a little bit better. And it's just been an awesome time, and a great year overall for high school football in Northwest Ohio. So
Absolutely.
But other than that, Northwest Ohio sports, all of us guys here, even Matthew, are all rooting Liberty Center on. Believe me. Matthew may pick Perry, but believe me, I know all of us are rooting on. Same with all of our sponsors. These sponsors that help us throughout the year, they make things possible. They allow for this equipment, they allow for the coverage, and they're just great overall. And they're all rooting for Liberty Center as well. So, again, with that being said, we'd like to thank all of our sponsors, including our primary sponsor, 3Chord, Optimal Performance Fitness, BSN Sports and Jim Garris, Bat & Stevens Body Shop, Tenor Rams Live, Jimenez Basketball Academy, Fairchild Family Chiropractic, NWO Basketball, the Drop Zone Pizzeria, Crystal Vasquez of Amerimaid Realty, Nicely Storage and Rentals, the Thunderdome and Truland Equipment, and Lauren Brown. I'd also like to give a special thanks to Jeff Batt for allowing us to use his amazing facility here at Bat & Stevens Body Shop for today's podcast and the entire season. Stay tuned for the next NWO Sports podcast in the near future, and thanks for watching.
Go Tigers.